The medieval method of torture is a better memorial that Iran's authorities have been using against the dissidents. Iran's law enforcement force, NAJA, has reportedly exercised brutal methods of torture to force the offenders to confess. The alleged felons are being severely tortured and prosecuted, which often leads them to be disabled. The captives are experiencing excruciating tortures in prison, both psychologically and physically during the interrogations. This report has mentioned the most brutal torture techniques against criminal prisoners used by Iran's officials and is unknown. They put the captive's hand into a clamp to crush it. This method, thumb screw, caused the inmates to break their fingers, wrist, elbow, or forearm. Fire seat is the most norm of the torture in police interrogation intelligence offices, that the offenders are placed on the steel chair, which is heated by picnic gas. Another one is water torture, as putting water hose into the captive's mouth. The rip shower is the other way, in which water drops are trickled down on inmate's head so that the individuals get nervous tensions after a few minutes. Pulling fingernails as the most painful torture that carry out against robbers and murderers. Cutting the fingers or wrist in public for those that breaks the Shari'a law, such as robberies and thefts. Hanging from the ceiling that led the captives to break their shoulders. Hanging from the ceiling upside down and submerging the accused in a garbage can filled with unclean water. Lash is the common type of torture that all captives have been undergone in the intelligence division of Iran's National Police Force chambers. There are many ways to lash that the inmates are forced to recline on the bed. Afterward, they will be beaten with a gas hose, wand shaft, and lumber. The captives are vertically thrown into small steel cages for long term. High voltage shocking that could lead the captives to suffer from burns and psychological disorders such as nightmares. Inserting sharp objects like needle, awl, pin, peg, brooch and borer into the sensitive organs as spine, knee, head, cerebellum, and back. Burning the sensitive organs as face, hips and testes by hot metal or smoldering by cigarette flame. Some captives' back are reportedly burnt by iron by officials during interrogating. Sexual torture is the cruel way that is used by officials as threat of rape, sexual words or touching, robbing and beating the sex organs, but there are several reports of rape by using cylindrical objects as baton and bottle. In many cases, the captives commit suicide because they cannot bear these brutal tortures, and many of the victims reportedly become depressed after being tortured. The captives are suddenly beaten to their back, head, stomach, testes, neck, throat, shin or mouth that led them to break their teeth and nose. Keeping them in unclean and dirty cells puts the captive under more pressure. The method causes them to discharge their healthcare, keeping the inmates in containers that get cold in winter and warm in the summer. The method has allegedly happened at Kahrizak Detention Center during the unrest after the presidential election in 2009. Roast chicken torture. Captives' legs are pulled up, their arms over their legs, and a broomstick put between their arms and legs. Their hands are tied up, and then the officers do what they want with the captives. The captives' legs are fixed on a sawhorse and beaten to their metatarses by shaft, hose, or wand. Inadequate food is the other norm that leads to their health deterioration and makes them weak and weaker. The grave cell is the other most grievous torture, that the captives are kept standing in a vertical concrete grave with a small hatch to air, refreshing. And other types of torture such as medical care prevention, lethal medicine injection, hangs up weight to the testes, keeping in cold weather, lashes in front of publics, beating by shocker, mock execution, long-term imprisonment in solitary confinement, beating to the sensitive organs as head, cerebellum, neck, spine, stomach, shin, knee and back of the knee, beating to metatarses by gas hose, wand, shaft and lumber, and handcuff hands and legs of all the inmates together and keep them in the detention for hours. Force the accused to confess in severely brutal ways. In some cases, innocent individuals cannot bear the tortures and are forced to confess to a crime they have not done. This leads to long-term imprisonment or execution. As a former political prisoner in Adilabad prison in Shiraz, Iran, I have personally witnessed and heard harassment of the inmates who were brutally tortured. They showed me the marks remained from the tortures, and they would tell me that we will be disabled for our whole life. Hundreds of offenders as well as innocent people are subjected to this medieval violence in Iran's National Police Force detention centers.